Well, good morning, everybody. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where in the world you are connecting from. It is great to uh, it is great to be here with you today in this conversation about the power of networking. And if you have any questions, please make sure that you put it on the chat. We want this to be a very lively conversation as part of our You Can Do It coffee series. And we designed this because we know that there are many, many people out there looking for jobs right now. And there are certain skills that they either have not mastered yet, maybe because they are just entering into the workforce very recently and they still need to have some guidance on how to do their resumes, on how to network, how to do their interviews. Some other people have been working in the same position or in the same place for a long period of time and they may want to change, or perhaps they were laid off, furloughed, or fired because of all that's happening in the world these days with the coronavirus. So the fact is that there are certain skills that are critical in this job search, whether you are unemployed and looking for a job or whether you just want to transition to something else. So I'm hoping that with these conversations that we're having as part of the You Can Do It coffee series, you get great ideas on how to improve your resume and improve your capabilities for this job search. I invite you to go back to our YouTube channel, and I can post the link in here. And I invite you to go back to our YouTube channel. We've got a lot of stuff in there. And if you go to the playlist of the You Can Do It coffee series, you're gonna find the last three sessions or four sessions that we had. One of them was on personal branding. The other one was on landing your ideal job and networking as an introvert. Then we did another one on building your perfect resume. And today we are going to be talking about the power of strategic networking, which is, a very important part of the job search. So please let us know where you are connecting from. If you haven't said it already, please post it on the chat. We'd love to know where in the world you are. I see people from all over the place. So please put it in the chat if you have not done so already. If you have any questions or if you have any feedback or if you have anything you want to say, any ideas that you want to share as part of this conversation, please post it in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. Some things have worked for me. Some of the things have not worked. But I'm sure that the community will be eager to know what has worked for you because maybe some of those things work for them as well. So please post your comments, questions on the chat. Now, before getting into this conversation of the power of strategic networking, I want to say that I live in the United States. And for those of you who are not here, you may see in the news that our country right now is going through a number of difficult challenges, some of them related to the coronavirus, and some of them related to another kind of virus that has not died yet. And it's the virus of racism and discrimination and hate and violence. And the first thing that I want to say is that for those of you who are here in America, I am rooting for you. I am praying for you. I am hoping that you are okay and safe and well, that your family, significant others, your friends, your coworkers, that everybody's okay. And for everybody else, very attuned to the conversation of the power of networking, make sure that publicly and privately, you always do the right thing. And the right thing is to be human, to love, to be tolerant, to embrace the differences that we have with respect and humanity. And make sure that you take this opportunity during these challenging times that we're going through right now to reach out to others. That is part of building network and networking. It's reaching out to others, not only for your own personal benefit, as in trying to find a job, for example, but is making sure that you're there for them, that you show up when people need you. That is part of the power of a strategic networking, that you're showing up when others need you. And at this very moment, in the history of America, but also in many other countries. This is a great time to show up and to call your friends, whether it is your Black friends or friends from other minorities here in America or in any other country. Just call them, check in with them, listen to them. They may want and they may need somebody to talk to. And once again, the circle of life is, it's really beautiful, right? So it all comes back to you in some way. Today it is them needing you. Maybe tomorrow it will be you needing them. So just wanted to say this right off the bat because I think it's important to understand that while we're having this conversation about the power of strategic networking, we're not in a normal situation anymore. This is not a standalone conversation. It is embedded in a bigger system of things that are happening around us. So just wanted to share that with you. And once again, I'm rooting for you, praying for you, and I am hoping that you're all okay and safe, well, and healthy. Check out on your friends. Alrighty. Let's begin the conversation of the power of strategic networking. And again, if you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat. I would love to know, some of your ideas and questions and comments and whatnot. So the first thing that I want to say when it comes to networking, 90+% of all the jobs that are landed, particularly here in the United States, but probably the same principle applies everywhere. Most of those jobs are found via networking. And what that means is that even when a job is posted on a job board somewhere, even when you are applying to a job online, very often you are going to have the opportunity to land that job because you have built a network of professionals, of people that are either going to help you get to that job, or they will tell you when a job that would be a great fit for you is available and you may be a great candidate for that job. So it is critical that we understand that it is not enough just building a fantastic resume. And last week we had a great conversation about resumes, and that's an important part of the conversation, but it's not enough. You got to build your fantastic resume, but then you also have to make sure that you are building your networks and that you are talking to people that to network, to land that ideal job that you may be looking for right now. So having said that, and knowing that a lot of the jobs, 90+%, are landed via networking, I want to step back a little bit, and we're going to be facing a little bit of a crossroads in here. The first one is a question that you need to ask yourself. Are you in the right field? Are you in the career path where you want to be? And this is really important for you to know because of the following. Let me tell you a little bit about my own experience. I am an electronic engineer who ended up switching careers to human resources. I mean, seemingly, these two things don't have anything to do with each other, right? But the same reality applies for a lot of people. I was having a conversation 2 or 3 weeks ago with a biologist who now works providing support on innovation in the workplace. So if this person, now she's a consultant, but if this person was looking for a job and she is a biologist trying to transition to the innovation, to the corporate innovation world, for a lot of people, that may seem a little bit of a far-fetched transition, if you will. It may be not. But what's important here is for you to try to respond to the question of whether you are in the field in which you want to be or not. If the answer to that question is yes, but you want to continue to progress in that field, let's say whether it is electronic engineering, biology, human resources, or whatever it is, one of my recommendations as the very first step of your strategic thinking to build your networks is to define where do you want to be and who are the role models in that field that are already there. So let's say that you are a director or a VP of HR. So your next role or your next, where your career progression would be to become a chief people officer or a chief human resources officer. But that's not enough. You may say, I want to become a chief human resources officer, but that's not enough. You got to ask yourself more questions pertaining to that progression in your field. Some of them may be, for example, the kind of company you want to work for, the size of the company you want to work for, the industry in which you want to be. So if you are in the field, in the profession, in the career path in which you want to stay for a longer period of time, so there will be many questions along that way that you need to be asking yourself. Those questions will help you find the people that you need to network with. So let me continue this example. You are a VP or a director of HR, and you decide that you want to stay in that field, and in your career progression, you want to become chief human resources officer or chief people officer. And you dig a little deeper and you say, you know what? I want to become the head of HR for a company that is in the hospitality space. I'm just making it up. In the hospitality space, and especially in the small to medium sized hospitality industry. So once you start narrowing down that sort of career progression, that direction in which you want to go, you will start looking for the people that have made the transition or that have progressed to that level. Because when you find what they have done, that's going to give you a great idea first of the kind of capabilities that you may not have today that you need to build. So that's part of what you're going to be getting by looking at that group of people. But at the same time, if those role models have already transitioned in that direction, you may want to network with them. That doesn't mean that they will give you a job. And this is very important, by the way. The power of strategic networking is not just to land a job. It is to learn from a career. It is to learn from possible jobs. It is to get people in your network that can, at the same time, help you expand your own network. And this is very important. And I should have said this at the very beginning. You might imagine, and I'm guessing this is kind of the same thing for you, I get a lot of emails from a lot of people, and the headline of their messages is, I need a job, or something along those lines. That's not the right way to network, because you don't even know if I am able to help you. You don't know who I am. I don't know who you are. We don't know anything about each other. So do not start the networking conversation by telling people that you are just networking with them to find a job. That is not the right way to do it. And I mean, if you're lucky, maybe it works for you, but more generally than not, that's not the right way to network. The right way to network is to look for people that can provide you the most amount of information and that can provide you with the most amount of connections for you to continue progressing and going in the direction in which you want to go. And this is really important. Once again, if you are in the field, if you make the decision, this is the field, I'm in HR and I want to stay in HR. And I'm a VP or director, and I want to become a chief people officer or a chief human resources officer of in the hospitality industry, particularly in small to medium-sized companies. Let me look who's out there. And you find 10 people who somewhat fit the role that you want to be fulfilling in the future. You start networking with them, because for you, once again, it's not just about getting that job. It is also about learning what that job entails. And that's important, because then you can customize your resume. Then you can look for companies that may be recommendations from this network. And sometimes, even more importantly, they help you determine whether that's the right place for you. I have found a lot of people that start their networking operation, if you will. They start networking with a lot of people, and they say, this is the field in which I want to be. And that's what they want to. That's what they say they want to do. But then when talking to people, they find out that that's not where they want to be. Maybe that's not what they want to be. So they backtrack a little bit and they say, you know what? Let me go in a different direction. So the first question, as I said before, that you need to ask yourself is, am I in the right field? And I already said some comments about if the answer to that question is yes. Now, if the answer to that question is no, the path is very similar. Now, you're going to have to find people that most likely are outside of your field of expertise. This happened to me. I am an electronic engineer, and as an electronic engineer, I wanted to switch to HR. That was, pretty much a big gap kind of switch, if you will, from one career to another. So I needed to look, which I didn't do before, by the way. So this is part of the lesson learned in my career. One of the things that I should have done back then was, instead of starting from zero, and because I already had some experience, so I shouldn't have started from zero. But instead of going there, one of the things that I could have done was, let me look at some of the people that are already in the place where I want to be, or some of the people who have already made the transition from a technical career to human resources, for example, or a technology career to human resources, and let me see what they've done. Let me look at their career. Let me look at what they've learned. And based on that, I can define part of the things and the capabilities that I need to embrace and learn. And then I can also design the people that I want to start networking with, the people that I can learn something from. Once again, this all stems out of the question of whether you are in the field where you want to be, or if not, what that field could look like. So that is the first question that I think you should be asking yourself. Remember, networking, in my view, is overall building the opportunities for you to learn as much as possible, not only about jobs that you may be getting into, but about the careers you want to be getting into, about the company you want to be working for. And part of the conversation here is that networking is not just to land a job. Even though 90+% of all the jobs are landed via networking is not just for you to go out there and do it just to find a job. Networking is way more than that. And I am hoping that part of what I'm talking about right now, one of the connecting threads here that I hope you see as part of my conversation, is the understanding that networking and the power of a strategic networking can give you way more information than just a job. So I'm going to ask you a question. I know there are many comments in there. I'm going to try to go back to some of them a little later today. Not today. I'm sorry. We only have a few minutes, actually, like about an hour today. But I'll be going back to some of those comments a little later. But I want to ask you a question. And I want you to be genuine about this question. What have you used networking for in the past? What have you used networking for in the past? Just put it on the chat. I want to hear from you, because once again, very often, actually more often than not, people say, I use networking to find a job. I use networking just to find the recruiter or the hiring manager that is going to get me into that job that I want to have. And as we have already been talking about in here, networking is way more than that. A strategic networking is way more than that. It is the possibility for you to, one, learn about the things that you need to learn, or about the capabilities that you need to embrace, or about the people that you need to network with. And at the same time, it is expanding the community of people that can give you information for you to learn, but can also get you closer to that position that you may want to have. So that's one part of the conversation today. So the other part of the conversation, and very related to something that I said before, is who are the people that embrace the values, and that embrace the capabilities, and that embrace the knowledge and the direction of progression in which you want to go to? This is a very, very important question. And it is a very important question because one thing that have you seen the firefighters when they turn on the hose and it's only one of them, and the water starts going everywhere? I see people doing networking like that. They start, throwing that water in all directions to see if they get something. It's like that's not the right way to network. That is the non-strategic way to network. The strategic way to network, especially because your time is limited and everybody else's time is limited as well, you got to make sure that before starting your networking journey, you know who are the people that you really want to network with. And I'm not saying that there are people that you may not want to network with, yet they have some value to add to you, and that is true. But because your time is limited and everybody else's time is also limited, and you want to make sure that you are as strategic as possible, you are going to have to think from the onset the kind of professionals, the kind of people that you want to network with. And I'm not talking about names. I'm not talking about I want to network with Enrique, I want to network with John Doe or with Mary Jane. I am talking about define the persona you want to network with. And when you define the persona you want to network with, you get an amazing tool, which is LinkedIn, that helps you find the people that fit the features of that persona that you are defining. So I'm hoping that this is making some sense for you, because very often, once again, people are, throwing that water in all directions, uncontrollably, instead of thinking, who is the kind of person, who is the persona that I want to network with? So in my case, for example, part of the work that I do with Hacking HR right now, the persona that I am always very keen to network with, even though I am responsive to everybody, but the persona that I'm always interested in networking with is the kind of people that I can invite to the events that we do, to become speakers of the events, to participate in the panels, in the interviews, and whatnot. So I'm always looking somewhat, people that are in the C-suite level, or very experienced, or who have built something on their own. So that is the persona that I am looking for the events that I put together. I don't have the names of those people from the onset, but I know the characteristics that I want them to have. That helps me do a better strategic search on LinkedIn or anywhere else to see if I can find names that fit those requirements. Going back to the first question that I asked you about whether you are in the field where you want to be, and following a path of finding out the people that are in that field. Say that the persona that you want to network with is not always is necessarily a recruiter, because once again, the recruiter is one piece of the entire recruitment process. You may want to get more information upriver. And what that means is that you may want to even talk to hiring managers. Whether they hire you or not, that's going to give you great ideas and great insights about the jobs and about what they're looking for and whatnot. But before getting there, you are going to define who is the persona that represents that hiring manager, and how you can get access to them as well. So once again, this is very, very important, because I see, once again, a lot of people shooting in all directions, and the water holes going everywhere, and they miss the opportunity to maximize and optimize the way they are utilizing their time. So this is really, really critical. So first question that I asked in this conversation about strategic networking. Number one is, are you in the right field? If you say yes, what is your career progression? If you say no, where do you want to go? And who are the people, and this question pertains to both answers, who are the people that represent the direction which you want to go to? Second question, very related to the first one. What is the persona that I want to network with? Not the person, the persona that I want to network with. Chief People Officer, Chief Human Resources Officer, the Chief Analytics Officer, whoever it is. And then you define that kind of persona you want to network with. Now, I'm going to dig a little deeper into a third question. And it is, what are you going to do when you network with that person? How are you going to approach them? And what's going to happen if you get the opportunity to actually have a conversation with that person that you are networking with? So I don't know about you, but in my career, I've had several people, many of them, and I am sure that same thing has happened to you, several people coming to me, networking, and coming to a network conversation unprepared. No questions that they want to know from, maybe they have some questions right off the top of their mind. But I am expecting that if somebody reaches out to me or to you, and we're setting up some time, which we do probably in advance. I don't think you're going to be networking with somebody who's going to tell you like, yeah, call me right now and we talk. I mean, lucky you, that generally that's not the case. More often than not, you're going to have to plan these conversations ahead of time. And when that happens, that time that you have in, to schedule that call in between having the conversation with the person and the time that you schedule it, you gotta define very well the questions and the direction of the conversation that you want to have with that person. Yes, you want to make sure that you leave a lot of room for that person to provide as many insights as possible. But it would be very awkward if you go to a conversation with somebody that you've been dying to network with, and then you get there and you got a couple of questions, and then the rest of the half an hour that you have with them is just silence or chit chat. You don't want to waste time in chit chat. I mean, maybe you get somewhat of an emotional connection with that person, and that's a little bit of chit chat at the beginning, but you want to make sure that your time is utilized in the most valuable way for them and for you. You want them to know a little bit about you, but you want to know a lot about them, and you want to know a lot about the insights that they are providing to you. Once again, this third question is critical in the process of of a strategic networking. You have to go prepared for that networking conversation. Otherwise, it's a missed opportunity that you may not have again. So to me, that is part of the conversation of having of the power of strategic networking. So number one, are you in the right field? Number two, the persona you want to network with. Number three, once you get to fill in the people that fit the characteristics of the persona that you define, then you define the questions. Maybe it's a set of questions that you want to ask across the board, and there may be other more specific questions. Questions that I get very common, for example, people ask me, I work in recruitment and I want to switch to people analytics, which is not my field. I know a couple of things about it, but it's not my field. So I cannot provide a lot of insights about people analytics. So let's say that your persona is a professional in people analytics who may have transitioned from recruitment to people analytics. And there are many of them out there. That is your persona. Then you define the kind of questions that you want to ask them. One question is, for example, what was the hardest thing that you need to change or you needed to learn when you transition from recruitment to people analytics? Then you got a question. Maybe another question is, what is the career progression for people who are in the people analytics field? Number three is, what things do you use from recruitment in the people analytics field that other people in people analytics may not have because they were not in recruitment before? So these are powerful strategic questions that you can predefine before getting into that conversation with that person that you are networking with. This is very, very important. Once again, don't go to those meetings, without having things in your mind already predefined. The last thing that I want to say about the power of a strategic networking, and this is a little bit on the sidelines of networking, yet I believe it is, very, very related to networking. I'm in a field where a lot of folks in HR, they want to transition from full-time employees to consultants. They want to be full-time consultants, and they ask me a lot of questions. How do I begin? Where do I begin? How do I get clients? I don't have the answer to all of those questions, of course, but I have some ideas of where to begin. And one of the questions that always comes up as part of this conversation of where to begin is whether, as you transition to being a consultant or creating value for the community, whether it is okay for you to give things for free. Remember, the power of networking is not just something that is for you. It is also what you bring to others. And that's very important, because when you go to a networking conversation, you want to make sure, or to a networking event, or when you're building your network in general, you want to make sure that you have clarity about what you are offering to everybody else. You don't want to just be a taker. You also want to be a giver. And when you become a giver, you think, most likely, whether you can give things for free or not. I know that a lot of people don't like the idea of giving anything for free. They say, this is the value of my work, and I don't think that I can give anything for free. I have a different perspective. And some people may agree with it, some people may disagree with it, and that's totally fine. It's the beauty of life. If you add value for free, but you're adding value, you're building a network that will start trusting you. They will see you as a professional subject matter expert in the field of expertise where you are providing value. So at the time that you're ready to transition into either charging for the services that you're providing or providing some kind of freemium model or something along those lines, you will have already built a network that already trusts you. And this is very important. I think that right now if you had tried to do this maybe 25 years ago when nobody was doing something like this and you didn't want to give anything for free, maybe that would have made sense many, many years ago. But right now, I believe that it is very important for you to understand that as we are in a very crowded world where there are many people trying to do what you are trying to do, even though you may say, I'm bringing more value than them, blah blah blah, you want to show part of that value to the community, and you may have to give it for free to everybody else. So you become a giver, and when you become a giver, at the same time you are building your network. That's the way it goes, right? You become a giver and a taker, and that's okay. It's a little bit of selflessness, and a little bit of selfish as well. You take something back from that community, but you're also giving back. If you become only a taker, that is not a strategic networking. People will say like, well, this guy, this Enrique is only talking to me about, you know, me giving things to him, and he's not offering anything. This happened to me very often, by the way, when people reach out to me and say, Enrique, I want to partner with Hacking HR. And I ask them, okay, what does the partnership look like to you? And they say, literally, I'm not lying, I'm not making it up. They say, well, I'm doing this event, can you share it to your network? That's for them networking. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. That is not networking. That is not a partnership. You are becoming just a taker and not a giver. Like, how do we build something where we can benefit together, right? I'm not saying that the amount of benefits that we are going to be deriving out of that partnership will be the same for all of us, but you also have to make sure that you are providing value to your network. So this is really critical, because very often those that are not strategic about their networking, they become just takers and not givers. So make sure that you, out of all the things that you want to do, whether you're becoming an independent consultant, whether you are trying to come to a new job or whatever it is, make sure that you think about the things that you can give back for pro bono or for free to that community. I remember in my past years of professional experience, I was transitioning from one job to the other, and the job that I had, they needed me to stay for a little bit of longer time than what was defined as the notice in the policies, right? Notice was just a couple of weeks, and they wanted me to be there for a month. The other job needed me in 2 weeks. They couldn't wait for me 1 month. So I told the other job, well, you know what? In the 2 weeks of overlap, I don't mind if I'm not fully hired into this job. Just let me know what I need to do, and I'm going to start doing it. Maybe I start learning what I need to do. So by the time I start my actual work, I don't have to start the learning curve, but I already started that before. So I became a giver to them. That was a full-time job, but I became a giver to them because they didn't expect this. Most people just enter into a job and they start the learning curve when they are there. So for them, that was really valuable because they needed somebody to start, grinding and hustling right from the beginning. And the fact that I was learning 2 weeks prior to starting my job gave them 2 weeks basically of free work, if you will. I don't know if that looks like that for you, but whatever way it looks like for you, that's something that you're going to have to think about. What's important here as part of the strategic power of networking is, what do you have that you can give back to the community that is of value and can help you down the road to expand your network and to do the work that you want to do. You're going to be getting something out of it, but you're also giving something back. So let me quickly go back because I want to make sure that I review some of the comments that you have here in the chat. Let me go back quickly to some of the ideas that I shared with you today about the power of a strategic networking. Number one, networking is a learning experience. It's not an experience to just find a job. Even though 90+% of all the jobs in America are found via networking, networking is not just to find jobs. Networking is a learning experience. Networking is a community building experience. When you see it that way, you will start approaching people not to ask them for a job, but to ask to learn from them and to also provide something of value to them. There's a very significant difference in these two approaches. If you approach me just to say, Enrique, find me a job, I'm probably going to delete that email because, that's not probably the proper way to approach somebody that you don't know. Now, if we are trying to do that in a way that builds empathy and rapport between us, and I see that you want to learn from the work that I've done, and you are giving something back, I am going to be extremely keen to give back to you. Networking is a learning and a community building experience. Number two, you step back a little bit before starting your networking process and you think, am I in the right field? Is this what I want to do? Do I want to stay in HR? Do I want to continue being an electronic engineer? Yes, let me look at what the path and the career progression looks like for me, and let me look at who is already there and start networking with them. If the answer is no, then you say, you know what, let me see who in my network has made this transition from where I am today to where they are today, which is what I want to be. Number three, you define the persona that you want to network with. And that persona means the characteristics of the people you want to network with. And I'm saying this because your time is limited. Everybody else's time is limited. And that means that if you only have 1 hour of a day to send emails to network with people, you're going to have to make sure that you're sending those emails to the right community, if you will. So you're going to have to define that persona from the beginning. You want to make sure that when you get the opportunity to network with somebody that you have been dying to network with, you come prepared. If you come unprepared, it's going to be a missed opportunity, and the other person that you are networking with will feel it. They will know, like, oh, this Enrique, he came to ask me questions and he only asked me a couple of questions. I can see that they were totally unprepared for this conversation. So make sure that you are prepared. And finally, the last stage in this conversation or at least my part of the conversation on the power of strategic networking is, what value do you bring back to the community? How do you become a giver sometimes, and hopefully some more often than not, more of a giver rather than a taker? And it's going to force you to think, what do I give back for free to the community that can also help me down the road to expand my own community? So those are some of the questions that I am hoping that you're writing down, or you watch this video later and they become guiding for you in this conversation. Let me say one more thing before turning it over to your questions and your comments. I'm an extrovert. You may be able to see that. I don't have any fear to be in a camera. I love talking to people. I have some of my friends here. My friend Eric Kushat, he's here in the chat. Eric is an introvert, and we talk a lot about this. There is something weird about being in an in-person event and seeing a couple of people talking and just like jumping into a swimming pool, like, hey guys, here I am. What you guys talking about? I want to be part of this conversation. That is so awkward. Some people feel okay doing that. I don't, even though I am an extrovert. I can tell and I can imagine that it's even more challenging for introverts to do something like that. If you look at me, part of when I used to, many years ago, when I used to go to these happy hours to network, I just couldn't do it. I just would go to these things and stay there for a couple of, minutes. And then I'm like, this is not for me. I just got to find another way to network. It's okay that the in-person networking is not the right way for you to do it. Now, one thing that I don't want to say that it's a silver lining of this coronavirus crisis that we're going through right now, but it's definitely one has opened an opportunity for networking in a different way. We got the technology tools right now to meet people online. And what that means, in my view, is it makes it it makes it a little easier, a little less awkward to reach out to somebody online than to jump in the middle of a conversation that two people are having at a table in a conference or something like that. So that's one thing that I wanted to say. Maximize and seize, carpe diem, seize the opportunity that we have right now to network with people during these times where most people or a lot of people are working from home, and they, I think, are more keen to having these conversations. So that's one thing added to all the questions that I said before. Now, the other thing that I want to add to that is, whether you are an introvert or an extrovert, it is very, very important for you to know that networking requires a high degree of fearlessness. A high degree of fearlessness. Let me explain what this means. If you send out an email to somebody, this could happen. They may ignore you. And what can you do, right? You cannot control others. They may ignore you, they never respond, and you get all shocked about that, and maybe you are, don't take it personally. Let's put it that way. Maybe they don't respond because they never saw the email. Maybe, like it happened to me sometimes, that my emails go to spam. I hate it, but it happens. And I don't take it personally, right? If somebody doesn't respond to me, I don't take it personally. They didn't respond for whatever reasons. I move on to the next person that I can network with. Or if I am really, really, really interested in networking with that one person, I follow up and try to do as much as possible to continue to build the conversation and the network with that one person. So that's one thing that could happen. The other thing that could happen is that somebody tells you, no, thank you, but I'm too busy right now, or, I don't give my advice for free. Some people say that, or whatever it is. Don't take it personally. It's nothing against you as an individual. It's nothing against you as a person. You cannot control what other people are doing, or the responses that other people will be giving to you. You cannot control them. You cannot influence them. You cannot change them. So don't take these things personally. Now, the best case scenario, of course, out of the three possibilities is that they say, oh yeah, Enrique, let's talk. Let's have a virtual coffee together and talk about whatever. That is fantastic. What I'm saying here is that the moment you put yourself out there, whether it is to build your personal or professional brand, whether it is to network, whether it is to try to find a job, or for whatever reason you're putting yourself out there, what's going to happen at the end of the day is that you are exposing yourself already to others. And what happens with that is that some people will not want to network with you. Some people will ignore you, and some people may say yes. Even more importantly, and it doesn't have to do a lot with the conversation of today, but it had to do with the one that we had 3 weeks ago when we were talking about building personal branding. I put content out there, and sometimes it's not more often than not, but sometimes people disagree with what I'm saying. And fortunately, they do it in a very respectful way. And we build network even by doing that. But what I'm saying here is that you got to have a little component of fearlessness when you put yourself out there. This doesn't have anything to do with being an introverted or an extroverted or an ambivert. It has to do with you saying, you know what? This is the path for me to land that ideal job. This is the path for me to build that event that I want to build. This is the path for me to get that client that I want to get. And I'm going to have to be fearless. And I'm going to have to put myself out there to do what I know that I need to do in order to reach that network that, so like as of today, is out of my reach. So you're going to be putting yourself out there. That requires a little bit of fearlessness, if you will. Alrighty. That's part of what I wanted to talk to you. Let me see some of the comments. I know there are a lot of comments in here. Eric, thanks for quoting me. Some people may agree, some people may disagree, and that's okay. That's the beauty of life. My impression, somebody says here, Melita, my impression is we still don't understand networking as a strategy, more as a convenience. This is very beautifully said, Melita, because it's totally true. And that's part of what we were saying at the beginning. You get the thinking of, I'm on a network just to find a job, or I'm going to network to build community and to learn. And the actions that you take in one or the other direction are going to be very different. And the results evidently will also be different. In my view, you may be better off by choosing the path of thinking networking is a learning experience and a community building experience. Sometimes I don't know if you've seen this research before, but some research says that we are 7 degrees of separation from everybody else in the world. I don't know if that's true or not. They actually did a research about that. They sent out a letter, and the letter went I don't know for how long time. And they found out that the letter went around for 6 or 7 people before coming back to the person who sent it in the first place. The fact of the matter is that you may want to get a job, and maybe you don't know anybody in that job, right? Or you don't even know what company you want to work for, but you know what the job looks like. And you start networking with one person, and the person says to you, oh, hey, Enrique, I'm not sure, but thanks for all the questions, but you know what? I know somebody who can help you with that thing. I'm going to connect you with them. And then they connect you with that person. And you network with that other person. And when you network with that other person, they say oh, you know what? I have a friend who just posted a job, exactly like what you're describing. So let me connect you with them. So what's important here is that when you think about networking, not directly as let me see how quickly I can find a job, but as let me see how can I expand my network and how much can I learn from that network. They will get you there. They will help you get there. You're gonna be patient, of course. That's important, but you are going to get there if you see this as a strategic opportunity for you to learn and to build your network. Okay, let me see what else is here. I'm looking at some of your comments. I use networking to connect with other professionals and develop relationships. Fantastic. That's the way to go. Networking to find interesting people to support our career clinic. Woo, great. Power of networking and learning. Collaborating with peer colleagues. These are all responses that are in the path of I'm doing networking because I want to expand my community and because I want to learn from them and give back. Of course, never forget that. Give back to them. Let me see what else is out there. If you help enough other people, Eric, get what they want, you will get what you want. Absolutely. And this is part of the power of building or doing a strategic networking. You become a giver and people will remember you. They will know, hey, this guy is connecting me with this other person. Now I got this job. And, it all goes back to you in one way or another. So I am hoping that you see this as strategic in the first place, but as an opportunity to also give back a lot to your community. A testimony here, due to the sessions you've been hosting right here, I had an opportunity to get in touch with a panelist from this forum who is based in Israel, and we're having an amazing conversation on a certain topic. She has linked me with somebody else in her network. That's the way it goes. It is all the degrees of separation between one person and the other. It starts shrinking the moment you start networking with the first one, right? They will get you to the next one and to the next one, to the next one. People usually connect to sell their products, tools, not genuinely for networking. Yeah, and that doesn't work. As simple as that. On LinkedIn now, there are all these tools, the messaging, which I utilize a lot, the email thing, which people badly use for, selling products or stuff like that. And that doesn't work. You got to build a different kind of relationship. And, it's important for everybody to know that if you want to really leverage on the power of a strategic networking, you're going to have to do it in a way that truly delivers value to your network while you are getting some value back, but at the same time, you are doing it in a way that helps you expand your community and learn as well. All right, everybody, I think that's pretty much it, what I wanted to cover today. I am hoping that this conversation has been useful for you, the power of a strategic networking. Please, if you didn't take notes of what we were talking about before, please go back because I asked several questions that I think you need to write down and think about them. And you got to strategically think about them because networking is not just going out there and, with a fire hose, the water hose, in all directions. Networking requires strategy. And for you to have that kind of a strategy, you got to step back a little bit and think about the questions that you may have not thought about before. So I am hoping that this has been a helpful conversation as part of this You Can Do It coffee series. And what we are hoping with these conversations is that you gain skills and capabilities and knowledge and ideas about things that you may not be doing today, but you need to start doing if you are in the search for another job or for a job at all because, well, you were laid off or you don't have a job or, one of those things. And I'm hoping that this was interesting and helpful to you. And lastly, I once again want to say that I am hoping that you are all safe, healthy, and well. I am hoping that part of the networking is to do the right thing and to add value to others. And one thing that is very, very important here is that you show up when people need you. That is building your network. People miss this so many times. I mean, it's just unbelievable to me that people miss, so many times people miss the fact that networking is not just me. It is like, what can I bring to you? And in this very moment, it could be this is a great opportunity for you to give back to your community, to your network, the network that you have already built. Call your friends that you know may be unemployed, that you know may be alone, and they have been quarantined at home for a long time. Call them. Call your African American friends who are going through so much these days here in America. Call your friends whom you know have family members that are sick with coronavirus or who have lost loved ones. This is the opportunity when you show up and you give value back. This is how you build network. Well, everybody, stay safe and strong and well. I will see you soon in another of our sessions. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.